Hello and welcome to Connected episode 481. It is made possible by our sponsors Masterclass and Electric. My name is Stephen Hackett and I have the pleasure of being joined by Mr. Mike Hurley.
Hello, and I have the pleasure of being joined on this very special episode by Federico Vittici. We're back together. Hi, Federico. We did it.
Hello and welcome to the 10th annual Upgrades.
Wait, what?
No. That is a different show. But as a huge fan of Upgrade, you gotta go listen to the Upgrades. I just wanted to say this up front.
Hashtag Justice for Connected.
Yeah, well, look, here's the thing, Stephen. Would you award yourself? Would you do that?
We don't need justice.
But we just need one more to be a lifetime achievement winner.
I could see Stephen with the Obama giving himself a medal meme. Somebody please make it.
Discord, you got your first assignment
around his own neck. Yeah. It's a complicated thing, right? Like, it's kind of down to Jason. I'm not giving myself an award. The honor is to be nominated, you know?
Maybe.
It's the Annies today.
It's the Annies. So if you were not familiar with this is where we take our year's worth of news and we rank it on the Tichy scale. Now, if you're not familiar with this is an extremely...
Can I just stop you for a second? Nothing encapsulates this show more than two levels of if you're not familiar with this.
Yes.
You said if you're not familiar with this, it's this. If you're not familiar, it's like a flowchart of familiarity.
So the Tichy scale is an internationally recognized scientific system of measurement.
It is ISO certified, so...
ISO 69420, I believe, is the filing number.
Yep, exactly. Nice.
Federico, could you name the different stops along this graph?
Sure enough, the Tichy scale starts from the left side with the nightmare level scenario. This is something that is extremely bad. It's a nightmare. We then go up to inferior minus, which is halfway through to inferior, which is a third step in the Tichy scale. We then strike the middle of the scale with two more stops. We have decent and normal. And you don't really want to be either of them, but if you really have to, I would actually prefer decent because it means you've done something slightly bad, but it's still within the realm of normalcy, but at least you got that slightly bad thing going for you. Then we have good. We move on to good plus, and then finally the last positive stop, best I love you. This is when you've done something truly exceptional that deserves the love of the connected program.
Best I love you.
Best I love you. And a big thank you to Kate, who illustrated this years and years ago. And it continues to serve us all very well.
And in fact, the nightmare stop is represented by a bat, which is really not an animal I appreciate personally.
It's a nightmare animal.
It's a nightmare animal. So that being said, usually the months they start in January. We're not doing any follow-up today.
No time for that.
We don't have time for follow-up. Why don't we just go ahead and start with the first day, with the first month of the, what is it that we use? The Gregorian calendar? Is that what we use?
The connected calendar.
Calendars are weird, man. Did you know that there's like a full 10 or 14? I never remember. There's 14 days missing from 1,000 years ago or something when the current calendar was invented. So I'm sure that
should let Gray know. He can find his missing week.
Somebody in the Discord will know what I'm talking about. There is I believe 14 days missing in a month. If you in fact, fun fact, if you open the Apple Calendar app on your phone and you scroll back enough, I believe Kate said in the Discord to the 1700s, you will find these missing days that I'm talking about. They are represented in the Apple Calendar as well.
Federico, do you remember when you said that we don't have time for
sorry.
anything else today?
I'm
and
sorry.
Then you started talking about the missing days
works.
in the 1700s.
It's 1752.
Yes.
Anyway.
We'll have a link in the show notes if you want to read more.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry.
It's not ingenious, but here we are. January, I'm gonna kick us off, and Apple started the year with a bang. We got the M2 Pro and M2 Max chips. This was about 6 or 7 months after we got the M2 at WWDC, and of course that good MacBook Air. But with the M2 Pro and M2 Max, we got updated 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros, and the M2 Pro notably went into the Mac Mini as well, killing off that space gray Intel Mac Mini finally. So that was gone. And this is the machine that I use. I have an M2 Pro, 14-inch MacBook Pro, and it's a fantastic computer. I'm still very happy with it. This is a short-lived generation. If we'll get later in the show,
spoilers,
you'll learn that Apple has already done the M3 Pro and M3 Max less than like 10 months later. So
very strange in my memory that this was January. This is not something that I would have been able to tell you happened in January of 2023.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be WWDC. I guess that was the MacBook Air, though.
Oh, I just thought this was like 2022, So that's where my brain was.
One day later, I'm just going to read the headline. Apple introduces the new HomePod with breakthrough sound and intelligence. So HomePod 2 looks like HomePod 1. 6 drivers, I think, instead of 8, and it moved to the S7 chip from the Apple Watch as opposed to the A8, which I believe was in the original HomePod. Looks the same, sounds basically the same, I think. Has slightly updated. That top kind of screen, but not a screen, matches the HomePod Mini now. I don't have any of these. I'm full in on the HomePod Mini lifestyle, but HomePod 2 is there, $299, still too expensive.
Hilarious. Just a hilarious thing.
It's kind of sad. We also saw the ending of Dark Sky. Yeah, Apple purchased Dark Sky back in March of 2020. I don't think anything else happened that month, but they kept it around.
Oh, no.
Kept it around for a while. And next time Apple buys a weather app, look out, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, please don't.
So this was shutting down the Dark Sky application. The API would kind of linger on until the end of March with WeatherKit replacing it, of course. But I know a lot of people who were using the Dark Sky app right until the end, and some of them are still salty about it. But Apple said it was going to do this. It said it well in advance. Like, I think they communicated it all pretty well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We also got iOS 16.3, which brought advanced data protection. So this is opt-in, and you get end-to-end encryption for almost all of your data in iCloud. If you don't have this, some of your stuff is just encrypted in transit, and Apple still has access to it on their server. So if the government comes calling, they can let the government in, I guess.
The biggest one being messages, right? So this is the thing where like messages were encrypted end to end if you didn't have messages in the cloud turned on, but who would not turn that on if you had more than one Apple device? So everyone turned it on.
And they were in your backups.
And it meant because therefore they were in the back. That's why, because then it would go into the backup, I think, if you turn that on. But no, because the backups are end to end encrypted. The issue was messages in the cloud is what made it like this. Do you two both have this turned on?
I do not.
Okay, so we can't trust Federico with messages. Steven, do you have it turned on?
I do.
Okay, so me and you can have secret conversations, but we can't have them with Federico because the government might find them.
Fine. You can send me your
I'm not, this is no
pictures.
judgment. I'm just, is there a reason, Federico, that you haven't done this, or have you just not done it?
I always fear that if I do either this or sign up for the Apple One bundle, it's gonna ruin my Apple ID inevitably.
Right, because you have the weird US Apple ID thing, right?
That's fair. And it does come with ramifications for unlocking your account if you get locked out, which you got to contend with too.
But I think their process is good, right? With like setting the recovery contacts and like doing the whole like I think Apple take every step possible to try and make sure you can protect your account better than I've ever had anyone do this kind of thing with me before. But like really making you do it, and it's like a whole pain, right? Because you have to like manually type the thing in. Yeah. But I think they do a good job with it. Yeah. And I'm happy now because I want my messages to be encrypted, and there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I should clarify, 16.3 made this worldwide. It was actually the end of 2022 with iOS 16.2 that this started just in the US. So it is now worldwide.
Just a clarification, Zach has said that you were right, Stephen, that it was the backups that were the problem. My apologies for correcting you incorrectly.
Also, Zach has created me with the Obama hands giving myself an award and it's
Perfect.
incredible.
Will you put that in the show notes or something so people can?
I will do that.
Thank you.
The last thing I want to bring your attention to in January, we got to kind of end on a down note. This is the end of third-party Twitter apps. So Elon Musk and his boys shut down the API, and Ivory for Mastodon was reborn out of the ashes of that, which is fantastic. Ivory's my Mastodon client of choice. But a sad day if you were using Tweetbot or Twitterific or something else for a long time. Those are dead and gone.
Can I be the first to posit this on the scale?
Yes.
Because I think, Stephen, the point that you've made, I think this was a good thing that Twitter clients were killed because it got more people away from Twitter and moved them to Mastodon.
Interesting take, and I agree.
I think a year later, or like 12 months later, this was good. This was good that this happened. Like, because our community got away mostly from Twitter, which I think has proved to be beneficial. And so was bad at the time, good in hindsight, which I guess is how we judge it, right? We judge it looking at the month and how we feel about it now. So I would call this a good month. I think the HomePod 2 ruined it, but because that's a stupid thing.
Yeah, I could go for good, I think.
What do you think, Stephen?
Yeah, I think good is where I land. I get what you're saying about the Twitter clients, but also it's sad, and it really harmed a lot of businesses and developers we know. So I can't go higher, but I will give it good.
Yeah, I think though that by and large the community helped those businesses out, right? And then they got to make their own decisions. Obviously, I think Tapbots is in a much better situation than it was before. And Icon Factory decided to take a break, which also might be good for them. You know what I mean? But I see what you're saying, but I think large, I think it was better. Like, I think at large, the result of it was good, even if there might be, as always, some pockets of pain, but you have to try and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
All right, it's my turn to talk about February. In February, Apple named I think finally named Carol Surface as Chief People Officer, making this is close to, but not exactly, like Doug Bowser at Nintendo.
Yeah,
but that's the all-time great, right?
If Carol's name was Carol McIntosh, that would have been better. But Carol is Carol Surface.
Carol iPad. that's an old
Carol iPad
name.
Fun fact: this is the best Surface that came out in 2023. So, yeah.
Apple names Best Surface of the Year Carol Surface as Chief People Officer, making Deirdre O'Brien full-time as head of retail, because O'Brien was managing both of those roles for a while, because I think Deirdre was HR, right? So people. Then when Angela Arendt left, she took retail, and now Deirdre moved full to retail, and Carol Surface came in as Chief People Officer. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella gave us the best quote of the year when talking about Bing and its competition with Google, where Stone Cold Killer Satya Nadella said, "I hope that with our innovation, they will definitely want to come out and show that they can dance. And I want people to know that we made them dance, and I think that'll be a great day."
Yeah, make them dance. Yeah.
And I think he was right, ultimately. I don't know where history is going to land, the LLMs with Microsoft and Google, et cetera, but Bard was rushed out because it was bad when it started, and I think that was purely because of what Microsoft was doing. So he brought them to the dance. And also, during this time on Connected, we were getting people to send us pictures of their thighs.
Oh, yeah.
And measuring them with rulers.
I miss those days.
Simpler times back in February.
Yeah. If only for the thigh. No, I mean, this is a normal.
This is very normal. I mean, that just feels very normal. There was some news and we did something weird on the show. This feels like a normal month to me.
Straight up normal.
Yeah.
Normal month. All right, we now move on to March. Huge news, guys. We got the yellow iPhone 14 and 14 Plus.
Have you ever seen a yellow iPhone in the wild?
No.
I'm not sure I have either.
Well, how would you know? Everybody just has cases. You know what I mean?
Like, that's true.
That's the thing. This was good, if anything, just to try and watch Jason do something, Like, he got sent these, and then he tried to make content out of it, and he just did a stream where he just showed a bunch of yellow things, which was just great. So, if that, for anything, Jason's yellow content made this a fun experience for me.
Yeah. And later in the year, much more recently, Marco used it to compare the yellow on his new Rivian, which was also good. So the yellow iPhone is not so much a phone as it is a measuring stick for color.
And content. And just content. It's just good for content.
We also finally saw the launch of Apple Music Classical only on the iPhone. I believe the app later came to the iPad. I don't think there's an Android version yet, but Apple Music Classical is the sort of Apple Music spin-off based off of the acquisition of Primephonic, the classical music streaming service from a few years back. This is a dedicated experience for classical music listeners. You now have this curated sort of UI for composers, orchestras, different a different way to browse classical music than the limitations of the standard Apple Music experience. I mean, this is nice that Apple is diversifying Apple Music for the classical music experience. I think I've played around with it for like 5 minutes because I don't listen to classical music, but there are elements of it, I think, that I wouldn't mind seeing in the Apple Music vanilla experience, like better search, more curation, different way to browse.
Nice fonts.
Nice fonts, and you can see some of that, like attention to metadata, coming to Apple Music with their new credits functionality in Apple Music, but it pales in comparison to the kind of metadata that you have in Apple Music Classical.
Also, the great artwork of composers. You know what I mean? Like, are you kidding me right now? Just a bunch of paintings. Come on.
Apple Pay Later.
Let's just clarify real quick. It is on Android. It is.
It is on Android now. Nice. Apple introduced Apple Pay Later. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what this is because I don't get any of these Apple Pay features in Italy.
This is where you can split up a purchase into multiple installments.
Okay.
Natively inside of Apple Pay.
Nice. Do either of you use it?
Don't have it.
I've never tried it.
And I try not to use these things. I wouldn't want to do this because it's like, if I can't afford it, I don't want to buy it. But your mileage may vary.
Yeah. First we got the announcement of WWDC was announced for June 5th. In March, Mike and I were ready that day with plane tickets. We had already hotel reservations good to go. We were prepared. And of course, this is when our season of excitement officially started.
Yep.
Because we knew that Apple, there were rumors, if you roll back the clock, there were rumors that Apple was going to introduce the headset before WWDC. And then it became apparent that Apple was not going to announce the then rumored Apple headset before June. And so with the confirmation of WWDC, we knew that then that event was going to be the Apple headset announcement. I remember that day, and when WWDC was announced, spending a lot of money on flights.
But it was better than the year before. We had way less notice.
Yeah, I believe this date was announced as we were getting ready to record the show, and we had to come back an hour later.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, I think there is a start of that show, right? Where it's like we actually started recording and then we stopped. Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, we said, nope, WWDC announced, bye.
Yep. And then it was like an hour and a half later and we came back. That was a busy day.
We started getting reports that the iPhone 15 Pro would feature a multi-use action button inspired by the Apple Watch Ultra instead of a physical mute switch. Those reports would turn out to be correct. We did get an action button in the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, and it is alongside, I would say, the 5X lens on the Pro Max. It is my favorite feature of the new phones. How are you guys liking the action button now? Do you still use it? Do you like it?
I use it multiple times a day, every day.
Nice.
And it is to add tasks to Todoist and Due. I really, really value that. I think that's like the best thing to do for this. So I love it.
Same. Use it a bunch to get things into Todoist. It's best as a quick capture device, and I'm glad I have it.
It's a great feature. More programmable buttons, Apple, please. Thank you. And lastly, another huge announcement, Ted Lasso merch by Nike. I actually saw these T-shirts and the sweater at the Apple store at the visitor center at Apple Park. A bunch of people buying AFC Richmond T-shirts. Obviously, season 3 of Ted Lasso was ongoing at the time, the final season of Ted Lasso, and Apple worked with Nike to release this official merch, and looks nice. I didn't get the T-shirt.
I have the sweatshirt, and I love it.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And that about wraps up March. I don't know. Normal? I would say normal.
I would say the WWDC date would push it above normal.
I could go with good.
Good, but no more than good.
No more than good, because it was like fine. But like getting that date is just always a relief.
Yeah, okay. Then we'll go with good. Congratulations, March, for getting a good grade.
Good work, March. You're redeeming yourself.
Well done, March.
This episode of Connected is brought to you by Masterclass. When you learn something new, it feels good. Mike, tell me about some practical advice you've learned via Masterclass.
So my favorite masterclass that I've done is, I'm completely biased because I'm such a huge fan of Sir Lewis Hamilton. I consider him a role model, and I really loved his masterclass. And really what it's focusing on is a combination of leadership and keeping a winning mindset. So when you're going through tough stuff, how you can keep focused and keep pushing forward, which I find to be an incredibly valuable thing to keep in my mind. He's somebody who I really look up to, and getting that kind of advice from somebody you really respect is really interesting. And also just like the kind of things you would not get to hear people like Lewis Hamilton talk about in any other place. And so being able to learn from the best, you can't beat that.
Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking and more. Whether you're watching Masterclass on your TV, listening in audio mode, in the app, or on the website, the quality speaks for itself. Masterclass instructors are there to help you teach. Masterclass instructors are there to help you reach the next level, and it's a lot more cost-effective than paying for one-on-one classes from the world's best. With Masterclass's annual membership, it's only $10 a month. That means memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180-plus Masterclass instructors. So you can learn how to negotiate a raise, manage your relationship, everything in between with Masterclass, because there's over 180 classes to choose from, with new ones being added every month. You too can boost your confidence, find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or you lead a team, you can use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. This holiday season, give one annual membership and get one for free at masterclass.com/connected. That link is in the show notes, masterclass.com/connected. Go there and get 2 memberships for the price of 1. Offer terms apply. You want to visit masterclass.com/connected. Our thanks to Masterclass for their support of the show and Relay FM. April, of course, marks Earth Day, and Apple always likes to talk about their environmental work leading up to that. And they had a pair of stories in April. One was recapping their goal to make every product carbon neutral by 2030. We learned a lot more about this in the September event with the phones and watches, but Apple kind of laid this vision out again. And I think it's one of the first times they've branded it like Apple 2030. They're making it a bigger deal, talking about it more. And one of the details that came out in this was by 2025, the company expects to use 100% recycled cobalt in all of its batteries. So instead of mining this from the earth, which is terrible for the environment and terrible for people who have to do it, using this recycled material will put a lot of that out of the picture, which is great.
It's funny. It's funny to see that in March, because I feel like I didn't know about it when I heard about it in June. So I must not have been paying attention to this.
Yeah, well, it was April and September, so you definitely weren't.
You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it in March or June, but like when they announced it here, it didn't stick in my mind like when they did the video in the iPhone
Skits
event.
work. You remember them.
Yeah, I guess so. But also they really hammered home the carbon neutral in that presentation. And I think by being able to actually show products that were carbon neutral rather than just talking about wanting to do it, it made much more of an impact, right?
April also began a ongoing battle between Jason Snell and General Motors. It was reported that GM had decided that future EVs would drop CarPlay and Android Auto using GM's own infotainment system built atop Android Automotive, which is like a low-level OS for cars, different from Android Auto. You can run CarPlay and Android Auto on cars that do this. A bunch of cars are now using Android Automotive as kind of the base layer. GM has decided not to. They want to monetize their customers. This also started an ongoing story where people from Apple end up at GM. Some have already left GM. Like, it's just been a real revolving door over there. And I think this continues to be a mistake and that GM will continue to pay for it. I mean, even just this week, I was talking to a friend about a new Cadillac SUV, electric SUV that they unveiled. He was like, no CarPlay, like it's just off the table. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And I hope GM gets the picture. April also started the 4-month-long Automation April. No, I was kidding, it wasn't that long this year. The amazing series of events and stories over, of course, Mac Stories. Automation April showed up on Mastodon this year, which was a great way to follow along kind of all in one place with giveaways and winners and contests, the whole thing. Federico, y'all did a great job with that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's always fun to put this together every year and to see what people can build with shortcuts. Hopefully we'll eventually get some bigger shortcuts updates from Apple compared to what we got in iOS and iPadOS 17. I don't know what we can come up with for Automation April next year, but we'll see.
You also published in April SGPT, a shortcut to connect ChatGPT to a bunch of native features in iOS and iPadOS. You've done so much shortcut work. You just published a story today actually about shortcuts and good links, but this was the one I was like, oh, Federico's he's like a real developer. You know, he's doing this thing with these APIs, bringing in content and suggestions and all this stuff from iOS and intermixing it with what ChatGPT could do. Mm-hmm. Is it something that you're still using on a regular basis? Like, what's kind of the status of SGPT for you personally?
This is the kind of shortcut that really went mainstream in a way that I was not expecting. It did.
It was big.
It was big and I still get requests from people like every single week. But the problem is I was hoping that iOS and iPadOS 17 will introduce new like system integrations for me to truly take advantage of SGPT in new ways. And the reason why I haven't resumed working on it yet is because there are more things that I want to do, but I am currently limited by shortcuts so much. And so does it even make sense? Like the amount of integrations that I can build haven't changed compared to last year. So I should probably go in and make sure that SGPT is still working with the latest versions of ChatGPT and the API. But all the things that I wanted to do, like imagine if you could get SGPT to rearrange windows for you. Nope, cannot do that on the iPad. Like I was hoping that I could build some nice upgrades to SGPT after WWDC, and I cannot because Apple didn't really add any new system integrations to shortcuts that I can integrate with SGPT. So that's why it's on pause at the moment, because it doesn't make sense for me to go in there and do what? There's nothing else that I can do right now.
You weren't the only one busy in April with content. I was in a car accident to test crash detection.
We appreciate your sacrifice. That was
I can report back that it works.
Jason's testing yellow phones. Steven's flipping a truck, you know?
Crashing your car. Yeah, that makes sense.
Everyone's doing what they can.
That's right. It's all hands on deck at the Relay FM Extended Universe.
Uh-huh. Oh, that was a time.
That was a terrible week. Okay. We also got news that Steve Jobs' longtime media boss, Katie Cotton, had passed away. on April 6th. She was one of those people that if you weren't in this racket, you may not have known who she was or, interacted with her. But if you followed along Apple news and press coverage during the Steve Jobs time, her work was very familiar to you. She seemed extremely loyal to Jobs and a pretty tough person to contend with if you had a disagreement, but was behind the scenes for really some of the biggest announcements in the Jobs kind of 2.0 era, and quite a loss, I'm sure, for people who knew her.
Yeah, it's like so much of the way that Apple communicates, like what seems like sometimes weird, sometimes very particularly planned stuff and secrecy. Like this all seemed to come from Katie Cotton, from how I understand it. I never had any interaction with her, but we all know people that did, and it seems like her work was incredibly influential, and she set a legacy.
Speaking of legacy, we got the Make Something Wonderful book, a collection of speeches and interviews and correspondence and more. Some of it public, some of it not public before. This came from the Steve Jobs Archive, which is a collaboration between Lorraine Powell Jobs, Johnny Ive, other people who were close to Steve. This came out in website form, which is really incredible. Like I'm scrolling through it now. Like the website is so good. It was also via Apple Books, and these books were given to Disney and Apple employees. I know Mike's got a copy. I have a copy as well. It's really nice. And, I'm not one to want to idolize Steve Jobs. He was definitely not a perfect person, but flipping through these pages, you can't help but miss him.
There's no perfect person, Stephen.
It's true. But was April the perfect month?
No, actually.
No,
I'm going to say, that was really bad when Stephen had his car accident.
Yeah.
That was not good. I would that on its own, nightmare, but that's how I feel. I don't know how you two feel.
So obviously, Steven is fine. I would say inferior minus.
Good? Oh.
No. I would say inferior minus. It is like the Steven
It could have been
crash.
worse.
It could have
Good
been
point.
worse.
Yeah.
Not a good month. Could have been worse. I would say inferior minus. This is where we're almost a nightmare scenario, but it could have been worse.
So we move on to May now.
Yeah.
Apple and Google partner, every time they've done this, it's been a success, on an industry specification to address unwanted tracking. So this is to set some standards and practices for AirTags and AirTag-like devices. This is like to build stuff into the operating system about the way that these devices are triggered and how they're triggered when there's people around you, and also in ways to alert users in the event of unwanted tracking and all this kind of stuff. Apple has pushed this forward on their own with AirTags, but they also worked with Google to set these practices, I think in an attempt to try and calm some of the groups that were very upset with them because of some terrible things that had happened.
Yeah.
And so this was an example of them trying to show that they were doing as much as they could possibly do while still continuing to produce AirTags. Hell froze over and Final Cut and Logic came to the iPad. They said it would never happen. Well, they said it would happen. Then they lost faith and said it would never happen. And then literally out of the blue, it happened. They just arrived, where really they could have appeared a month later, but they decided to just put them out. WWDC was pretty packed after all, so they put them out. And, as is the way with some of these things, sometimes the promise of it when the news hits is very exciting, and then you start digging into it, and it doesn't always live up to your expectations. I think we wanted a little bit more from Logic for our purposes, but they've focused it around music, which I think is very fair to do. But I've heard increasingly good things about Final Cut on the iPad, and there are people that are using it to produce videos and are using it as a companion for producing videos. So that seems like the winner of the two. And also, as is standard for Accessibility Awareness Day, is it Accessibility Awareness Day? Because I know there are a couple of different days, right? I think it's Accessibility Awareness Day. Apple took the opportunity to show off. Is it GLAAD? Global. Was it GAAD, Global Accessibility Awareness Day? Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. Apple took the opportunity to preview live speech, personal voice, and a few other features. So one of the big ones, Global Accessibility Awareness Day, GAD. They showed off Assistive Access. This is the thing that created a simplified operating system UI for iOS for people who need that kind of thing, which was really cool. And so it would allow for those with cognitive disabilities to be able to maybe more easily, with less distractions, operate their iPhone. It had live speech captions for videos and FaceTime, so the device on-device would create a selection of captions for video that's appearing. Personal voice, where for those at risk of losing their voices, they could go through a training with the device, which would ask you to say a bunch of stuff, and it would record you, and then overnight would generate a version of your voice that could be used with speech to text. And also point and speak in the magnifier app, so you could point your iPhone with the magnifier app open at a button, for example, and it would be able to read the button to you, what it says.
Very cool.
Apple Tyson's Corner reopens in Virginia. This is the first ever Apple store. The key thing, other than the store actually looking beautiful with a refreshed design language, which Apple has now rolled out to a couple of other stores, it includes the return of the Genius Bar as a thing inside of the store, with seats where you can go and know where to get help, rather than just floating around where the cases are and hoping somebody will help you at a random table.
Yeah, I'm super glad of that. I mean, the store here in Memphis was one of the first to get the design before this, like the avenues and the Grove, right? You just kind of sit around and like they type in what you're wearing and then they come look for you. That is confusing. And I think years in...
Yeah, I hate that as a way to do
I think
things
years in is still messy. And so I'm glad this is back, and hopefully they continue to, as they renovate the stores, bring back the Genius Bar.
I once was in an Apple store and I took my jacket off and then waited for 45 minutes.
Yep. Who's this guy? We don't know.
Yep. How dare I take my jacket off?
How dare you, sir?
Beats Studio Buds Plus came out and they had a clear plastic option and we all got excited. It's good. You have them, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. These are good. They look fantastic.
Normal?
Final Cut and Logic to the... I was going to say good. Good. Or good plus. Well, you had the Beat Studio Buds Plus. It's right there in the name.
That's a very good point. But
Final Cut and Logic on the
I can't.
Okay, good. All right.
They didn't give us what we wanted still.
Okay.
Though. Like we wanted like full, big, fully featured apps, and we got good versions of those things, not like good plus versions of those things.
Someone would say the iPad has baby apps. So some people say that.
Some people would say that.
Yeah. Okay, so we can go for good. We now get to the biggest and most important month of the year, June. Or as we call it in Italy, Giugno. It's very similar, actually. WWDC 2023, what an event. Okay, so this was the best time of the year. Not just because I got to see you guys again in person, and Mike finally made his official debut at WWDC.
Yeah, baby.
I have so
Can
many...
I just say real quick, if you don't mind me interrupting?
No,
you
I
probably
don't mind
do,
it.
but I'm sorry. I just saw this image and I can't get it out of my mind. I've opened the press release that Stephen put in the show notes. There's a picture I've never seen before of Tim Cook in front of the Vision Pro, and it is one of the greatest images I've ever seen. This is hilarious to me. I love this photo so...
This is so fake.
Yes, he's not actually there. This is incredible. I love this image. It's so good. I feel like there should be versions of this image with lots of people standing in front of it, you know? Like, this is great. I love it. I love this so much.
Putting him in front of other things, you know, like...
Yes, anything. But, like, this image is incredible. Oh, wow, I love it. I'd never seen it before, and I love it so much.
Where to begin? I guess with the boring stuff. We got the M2 Ultra Mac Studio and the Mac Pro, whatever. We got the M2 MacBook Air. We got
the 15-inch.
The 15-inch M2 MacBook Air. I do have the 13-inch M2 MacBook Air, best computer Apple's ever made. But we got the big boy, which I didn't even bother to go check out in person because I was obviously distracted by something else. The Vision Pro. So this was the big headset announcement at WWDC. I remember Mike and I, sitting together, basking in the sun of Apple Park, watching the Vision Pro announcement and Vision OS, of course, as the software platform. What a day and what a week that we got to try the Vision Pro. I got to try it the morning after. Mike, I believe you got to try it the same day as me, but in the evening.
I think so, yeah.
And it was an experience.
We were back together again, the three of us.
We were back together. Finally, John was there. A lot of our friends were there, and a lot of developers obviously were there. And just obviously there was WatchOS 10 with the redesign of macOS Sonoma, iOS and iPadOS 17. Big focus on widgets, right? This year, I think all of these operating systems can be easily described as widgets everywhere. I guess except for tvOS, although the tvOS update was actually pretty nice, I should say, but it doesn't come with widgets. Well, we got widgets, interactive widgets on iOS, iPadOS, standby on watchOS. We got widgets on the desktop in macOS Sonoma, which I use every day, unlike Jason Snell. I love them. We got some Stage Manager fixes, but not really any reinvention of Stage Manager. It just works better as it's supposed to do, unlike last year's version. But really, it was all about the Vision Pro and how we were able to try the Vision Pro on our faces, on our heads, at Apple Park. And it is one of my favorite memories of my career so far. Yeah. It's up there, top 5 memories, like the first time you tried the Vision Pro. And what I still think about what that demo felt like. Like it's sort of burned in my brain, like that feeling of uneasiness, good uneasiness, after I stepped out of that room when I tried the Vision Pro. So
it might be the best return on investment I've ever got for 30 minutes.
Yes.
Right. Oh, yeah. The amount I have generated from that half an hour, you know what I mean? Like, oh, yes, I got to, yeah. Like, yes, allow me to tell you what the experience is like, where I'm using memories from 9 months ago that was half an hour long, but great times.
And what else was, there was something else in June. Apple opened the Battersea, what's it called? Is it an Apple store? Is it an Apple office? What is it?
Okay, well, they have a store there, but...
They have a store, but it's also a campus of sorts?
It's a campus. It's a full-on campus, which I've been to, and it's nice. Beautiful. Like, just unbelievably beautiful as a building. Visually, I prefer it to Apple Park. It's just absolutely stunning space that they have built there.
This
really cool.
Was the historic the Battersea Power Station, which, if I recall correctly, this was the building on the cover of a Pink Floyd album.
Yeah, The Wall. Is it The Wall?
No. It was the one. No,
it's the one with a pig. It's a pig.
Yes, that one, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, also, the Reddit client Apollo had to shut down at the end of June. And if you recall, this was that moment of 2023 with the whole Reddit saga of subreddits going down to stage a blackout in protest of Reddit's new API policies, and Apollo, arguably the most popular Reddit client for iOS and iPadOS, the developer Christian Selig decided to shut down because of the prohibitive costs of the new Reddit API. Now I'm gonna say something about this. I sometimes wonder if that whole saga between Christian and Reddit management didn't get so ugly at the time. We know with the phone calls and the press interviews and the recorded phone calls. I sometimes wonder if there could have been a different outcome.
There could have
Apollo.
been a different outcome. There could have been. We know this now. Like, I think time has told that there could have been.
Yeah, and we see, for example, Narwhal, the other popular Reddit client, is out with version 2. They have a subscription.
There are Android apps too.
There are Android apps with subscriptions for Reddit.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I would pay a subscription to get Apollo back personally. But I know that Christian will never do it because maybe now it's more of a principle thing, which I understand.
Things got real bad, right? And
Things got real bad
on all sides. And I think with the way that it went down, I understand why it's not around anymore, because I think that the situation between these two parties is untenable now.
Yeah.
But there clearly, time has shown that there is a path, whether it is and also maybe Christian felt confident that any more money, if the subscription was more expensive, it just wasn't going to be worth it, right? I don't know, but other apps seem to have struck some kind of deal with Reddit and they're making it work, but it didn't for Apollo. And I think at the time in June, it seemed like there were going to be no third-party apps, but that has borne out to be not the case. So,
and lastly, we celebrated 10 years together in June, since we started a podcast called The Prompt at the time. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about grateful that we're still doing this, obviously, but 10 years makes me feel kind of old.
No, I think a 10-year creative partnership is a kind of incredible thing. The fact that we're able to still do this and we don't hate each other is that doesn't happen very much.
You're right.
It's a hard thing to do, to work creatively with somebody for that period of time, and we do it effortlessly.
We do it.
I have some personal news I need to share with y'all.
Oh no, we got so close to 11.
We can do it because, as any good lasting relationship, we spice things up every once in a while,
baby.
Such as having people send us pictures of their thighs. That is
Keep
the
it
fire
spicy.
that keeps a relationship alive. So, or as in the case of Steven, food-related content. That is also something that we do. So that being said, would put my thumb on the scale here and say June 2023 is the best I love you month.
Agreed. Sorry, Apollo. But Apollo, you've been taken out of this narrative. This is purely us.
Yeah, if only for the Vision Pro and how crazy that day was. Yeah. So congratulations, June. Best I love you.
July is one of those months where Apple was very excited about its media components of its company. They announced that various Apple TV Plus shows and movies, I guess just shows, I don't know how Emmys work, 54 Emmy Award nominations, including Ted Lasso, which is notable because it was the most Emmy-nominated comedy for 3 consecutive years. And I can't think of anything that deserves it better. Ted Lasso is perfect all the way through. The Michael J. Fox movie, which I still haven't seen. It's on my list. Maybe next week when get some time off, I want to watch that. But Apple TV Plus continues just to rake in the awards. Some really great stuff in here. For me, I think Shrinking was a real high point on Apple TV Plus.
So good. Such a good show.
Yeah. It's coming back for season 2, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Silo, also very good. I loved Silo. Some guy named John Stewart. Is that how I read this?
Oh, the one that has problems.
We'll get to him later on.
Apple
we'll
has
talk
problems.
about John Stewart later on.
He's featured heavily here, which is awkward because that fell apart. This was kind of hand in hand with everyone being very excited about Lionel Messi joining Miami and MLS Season Pass. This guy's been all over the place. Apple TV, the website. Apple's very excited about their MLS partnership, which is 10 years?
I don't know. I didn't notice. I didn't notice. Didn't notice it. Didn't notice any Messi on anywhere. No.
Yeah, well, they tidied up after he left. July was also the month of a lot of social media news. So we saw Threads come to life in July. Some people were using Blue Sky in July. And then this is also when Twitter was being rebranded as X. Just a lot of stuff, a lot of social media stuff in July. And then lastly, some foreshadowing for something that would come later, that Goldman Sachs was looking for a way out of its partnership with the Apple Card. This came after months and months of stories of Goldman Sachs complaining about the Apple Card and its partnership. And this was apparently them beginning to work towards leaving that partnership. For me, like decent, normal, inferior even.
What I'll say is Threads was really exciting.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was actually...
Briefly for me, but yes.
But it was a very exciting time, right? Like it kind of... We knew about it, but then it came out of nowhere, and then it was like a really fun few days. I don't know if that's enough to like really break it into good territory. The rest of the stuff on this list is like, I have no real opinion. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really make me feel anything, right? Like I feel nothing. But like Apple getting 54 Emmy Award nominations, it's like I'm proud of them. Like, okay, you got a bunch of Emmy Award nominations. I would say normal, maybe normal to good, but normal would be fine.
Yeah, I lean towards normal just because, like, I know, like, I honestly do not care what happens to the company Twitter beyond just the gazing at the car accident. But that brand dying for X, which is something that Elon's been obsessed with as a brand for 20 years, like that hurt. That's a moment.
Sad. That was sad. Yeah, you shouldn't have done that.
Normal it is. This episode of Connected is brought to you by Electric. Turning a small business into an empire takes work, and you have to keep your ear to the ground for things that will help you take it to the next level. But this can be hard when your attention is pulled in different directions, because that's the reality of being a boss. The team over at Electric knows that small businesses, maybe like yours, face these challenges. That's why they're on hand to help with the time-consuming parts of your business, like standardizing device security with best-in-class device management software so you can implement best practices across the board and be ready to scale. And employee onboarding and offboarding done for you, saving you an average of 8 hours per request. Plus, Electric will help you keep a single point of visibility into your IT department. Electric will help you keep a single point of visibility into your IT environment to control your devices, networks, and applications, while simplified reporting allows you to achieve and maintain compliance. And Electric can provide proactive IT recommendations and automated workflows that make IT easier to manage even for non-technical users. If you're hearing this and you think your company could use some of these services, but you're not sure where to start, Electric's experts will guide you through the process of establishing standardized IT processes for your organization. Delegating things is so important in a business, and when it comes to these IT processes where standardization and compliance are important, you want to delegate to the experts, and that's when you should go check out Electric. For Connected listeners, they are offering a free pair of Beats Solo 3 headphones for taking a qualified meeting. Just go to electric.ai/connected. That's electric.ai/connected for a free pair of Beats Solo 3 headphones for scheduling a meeting. Our thanks to Electric for the support of the show and Relay FM.
August was pretty quiet. There wasn't a lot of news in August, which is actually not surprising. Mm-hmm. You kind of sandwiched in between the tail off of WWDC and the ramp up to the iPhone. But rumors began once again, or speculation began, of Apple potentially buying or investing heavily into Disney, as Bob Iger started to scramble for ways to strengthen the company and talking about looking for strategic partners for ESPN. He seems to have kind of waved that off now, but it was something we were talking about at the time. The Relay FM podcast network turned 9 years old and announced that their 10th anniversary show would be occurring in July of next year. I don't know why I'm saying like this. In London. We're doing a show in London next year. We announced it. It was awesome. And effectively sold out of tickets. There's like a very small amount left of the unreserved seats in the gallery area. If you are still wanting to come to the show, you can, but we're going to be together in person for a big variety show in July of next year.
Yeah. I'll also add just quickly that there is a live London channel in the Discord for members. And some people who have gotten tickets who now have something else going on have tickets available there too. So if you're in the Discord, check that channel out.
And the iMac turned 25 years old. And The Verge did some cool articles, one of them written by Jason, kind of about the iMac G3. Mm-hmm. That was the one that turned 25, right? Not just the iMac, which was the G3. Yes, the first iMac. Yes.
Yeah, that's the first iMac.
I got confused with Mac. I don't know why I fell down that hole, but I did for a second.
The Mac turns 40 next year, though.
Gross.
Wild.
That's disgusting. Should be illegal. So that's August. Good?
Good.
Good? Federico, let me tell you something.
Good.
We had a lot of tickets to sell, and we sold most of them. So that was pretty good.
That's good month.
It was scary.
It
was scary. It was a scary time.
Good month. We now get to the other big month of the year. Why is it that I always get to talk about these months?
Well, whoever...
It's round robin.
Yeah. Whoever gets June gets September because of the round robin.
Yeah, I guess that's how calendars work.
Yep.
Hey, did you guys know that in the 1700s...
No way.
No way, come
Tell
on.
me all about it.
That round robin would be totally different.
New yes. New hardware, new iPhones.
Renaissance Robin.
New iPhones, iPhone 15 and 15 Plus, the ones nobody cares about. I'm kidding, but I mean, also...
Oh my God, he said it. The inside voice came out.
Look, we're all thinking it, right? We all think it. Like,
God.
When somebody comes to you and they're like, I got an iPhone 15, and you look down and it's not a 15 Pro, you're like,
where's your titanium? He says.
Look at this.
Titanium. I saw a iPhone 15 in the wild just yesterday, the pink, and that's how I knew what it was. I recognized the color, but yeah, it's.
Did you scoff at it when you saw it?
Get that aluminum out of here. This club is for titanium users only.
We do not phone shame on this program,
except for the fact that you're doing it.
But it's for it's entertainment. You gotta understand it's fine line.
We phone shame for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, it's like being a comedian. When you say horrible things as a comedian, you get a free pass. I guess that's how it works. Titanium, obviously.
Titanium.
I am titanium. Yes. Great phones, and especially the 15 Pro Max this year with the 5X, not a periscope, but actually a periscope camera system.
It's actually, I think you'll find it's a tetraprism.
I am sorry, Mr. Science. I am sorry. I beg your pardon. I know that, yes.
Thank you, Macedon.
Tetraprism, whatever lens. It zooms more. And I like it. It's been excellent so far. It's something that I use every single day. And the action button, which we mentioned a few months ago in this episode. It is a real feature that you can customize in a bunch of different ways, with shortcuts, with apps, with flashlight, a bunch of things that you can assign to the action button. Really, really, really good feature. And also Apple Watch Series 9 and Apple Watch Ultra 2. That was nice until it lasted, I guess, with these watches.
Later.
We'll get to this, but relatively minor updates, I would say. The Apple Watch Ultra 2 in my mind is only exciting because Mike got it finally. So that's why.
Mike, can you give us like a 30-second review of the Ultra 2?
I love it. The battery life is what's absolutely king. That's my biggest change, and the thing that I love the most about my Apple Watch now is I don't think about charging it, where I used to think about charging it all the time. I love the screen, and the Apple Watch Ultra has just forced me to embrace what the Apple Watch is and just have one of the ugly watch faces with loads of complications on it. But I'm happier now because I'm not trying to pretend that this watch is something that it isn't.
That's a good take. We also had the AirPods Pro 2 update with the USB-C and a kind of asterisk feature, which is the low latency audio support for the future Vision Pro integration. I got the AirPods Pro 2 update with the USB-C case because that was at the time that was the only way you could get a USB-C case for your AirPods Pro 2. You had to buy the whole thing, which I did. It's fine. They are AirPods Pro 2 now with USB-C. Apple in the process unveiled its first carbon neutral products. They made a big deal at the September event. You guys remember the film that lasted forever with
Too long. Yeah.
What was it? Octavia Spencer playing
as Mother Nature.
Mother Nature. Yeah, that was a cute idea for the first minute, and then I just wanted to, to change the channel, but I couldn't because I need to watch an Apple event. And Steven, you got to go to the keynote, whereas Mike and I, we stayed in the comfort. I don't know if your home is comfortable, Mike. I hope it is, but mine is. Yeah, stayed in the comfort of my home.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't go. But Steven went. How was it, Steven? 30-second review of the Apple event.
Is so different from WWDC. It's a lot of press people. Some I only know because I've seen them on actual television, right? Not the developer scene that we're used to. But very exciting to be there. Very exciting to be in the hands-on space. I got some pictures and stuff in a blog post in the show notes. But that was just as chaotic as you think it would be. I mean, everyone's nice, like no one's like pushing or like, but people are trying to get their jobs done, trying to get pictures, trying to get video, and it's just a lot of people everywhere. But a true honor to get to go, and it was exhausting. We'll talk about the end of September here in a minute. Very quick trip to California for me, but well worth it, and I'm glad I was able to do it.
Yeah, baby.
iOS 17, iPadOS 17, tvOS 17, watchOS 10, and macOS Sonoma, everything launched in September.
Love it when that happens. Should all be in the same month.
I got my iOS and iPadOS 17 review done in time. Thank you. John got his review done. It was a congratulations, John.
I was betrayed. Don't forget that.
You were not.
I was betrayed.
You were not betrayed. You were retired. As they
forcibly.
No.
I was severed.
Some sad news. Unfortunately, we need to share couple of sad news items and then a really, really, really good one. First sad item, the iTunes movie trailers website app was finally taken offline. If you recall, this is the website service that Apple was still running because they remembered they were running this service after Steven sent them an email years ago.
Yeah, this one's on me, y'all. I'm sorry.
You are responsible for killing this thing, Steven. Blood is on your hands with this one. You reminded the single person at Apple that was in charge of iTunes movie trailers that it was time to retire the website and the app.
This has reminded me about a complaint that I would just like to make on the show. So now on the Apple TV, right, you can buy movies and TV shows in the Apple TV app. But on the home screen, there's still icons for iTunes movies and iTunes TV shows that when you click them, it says, go to the Apple TV app, but you can't delete them. And I don't know why that's the case or who that's for.
Whoops.
And I find it very annoying. You can't remove them, and nor do they do anything. So I would prefer it if they could deal with that.
Yeah.
So please.
They also banished wish lists in 17.2. Some weird stuff going on over there in tvOS land.
Also, Apple introduced their post-leather accessories, namely the fine woven case for the iPhone. And I guess there's also a fine woven wallet, and later we would get fine woven Apple Watch bands. And the fine woven case is really bad, and Apple should feel bad about selling a quote-unquote premium case that is essentially made of paper-like material that scratches easily, ages badly, gets easily stained. This has to be the worst case I've ever gotten for my iPhone, and it's so such a bummer that it's the official successor to the premium leather case that Apple used to make. And instead of making a vegan leather option, which is essentially plastic, I mean, vegan leather is basically plastic, they decided to go with this textile of sorts kind of material that is really bad. And I really, really dislike it. In a way that you can dislike a $50 object. It's not like it's the end of the world, but it's a bad $50 object, in my opinion.
Did either of you see Peter McKinnon's case?
Yep, I saw it on Threads the other day.
Yeah, bad.
So gross.
It looked bad. It looked real bad.
So gross.
But I mean, look, I don't know how leather would have looked over the time. Like leather would have aged too, but I think leather ages a little more gracefully than this material does.
And over a much longer period of time.
Yeah, I feel like this does not look like 2.5 months of patina on a leather case. I'll put a link in the show notes to his post on Threads.
And lastly, we close out September with some incredible news. Relay FM, the community around Relay FM, raised for the kids of St. Jude $776,000. Let me spell that number in Italian because I think it makes even more of an impact. $776,000.
That does actually make a bigger impact. You weren't lying.
I told you.
Yeah.
Told you it would. That is an incredible amount of money, reaching the total of 5 years donations of $2.98 million raised.
That's a lot of money,
by Relay FM for St. Jude. What an incredible accomplishment for you two specifically. I know there's a lot of people who work on this thing, but you two should feel proud. Doesn't even describe what I think you should feel like. This is a truly once in a lifetime opportunity to get to raise this amount of money and make an actual impact. Fighting
Yep.
cancer that affects so many kids, unfortunately, worldwide, and St. Jude doing their incredible work, fighting childhood cancer. Well done. This is an incredible milestone.
I feel like I don't know how Stephen feels, but like the 5-year number now has passed my ability to conceive of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I struggle to think about that now. And it's way easier for me to think about the year number. I feel like I can't wrap my head around it now because it's just gotten so unfathomably large because of the generosity of our community.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And I hope that we can vote as a trio that September is Best I Love You.
Absolutely. It is.
Two Best I Love Yous. I would say this has felt like, now in this review, 2023 is a good year, it feels like.
It's been a good year for
our stuff. For this specific stuff only we're talking about. Just the things in which we are talking about, okay? That's what we're talking about.
It's been a good year for Apple stuff. That's just...
topics on Connected.
Yeah, it's been a good year for Connected, okay? There's nothing wrong in saying that. Please don't cancel us for being optimistic about Connected, Yeah. So it's been a good year. It's been a Best I Love You month. Congratulations to the folks who work on September for getting Best I Love You.
I'd like to thank all the designers and developers who make September possible.
All the families of the employees who make September.
Mark.
Oh boy.
October, big news.
October.
New Apple Pencil, complete with a chart so you know which one works with your iPad and what features you get.
We all love a good chart,
Who doesn't?
Big chart boys over here.
Yeah. So this is the Apple Pencil USB-C. It retails for, what is it, $99? I'm trying to find it in Apple's very confusing press release page. But new pencil, $69. Nice. So there's that. You can spend $99 to get the Apple Pencil first generation or $129 for the second generation. Again, they all work with different ones. There's a lot of hand-wringing about why this wasn't out with the 10th gen iPad. Clearly, Apple just didn't have it ready. And I really think this pencil is sort of you can look at it, right, and you can see all the confusing things in the iPad lineup just looking at this Pencil page, but it's out. Apple also shipped watchOS 10.1, which enabled double tap on the new Apple Watch Series 9 and Apple Watch Ultra 2. The double tap gesture has its roots in some accessibility features that have actually been around for quite a while on the watch and watchOS, but basically, the way I think about this is like it's like the return key on the Mac. It's just going to activate whatever sort of the default thing is on the screen. There is no support for this for third-party apps, though. It's just within Apple's UI and some of their apps. So maybe this will open up in the future, but not yet.
So I use this. Right? I have this.
Okay, how is it?
It's okay. Like really, this for me is how to interact with notifications. Like that's what it's for. And realistically, I use it for one thing, which is I'm walking and I know my watch is saying, "Hey, you're walking," and I lift my wrist and I do the double tap action and then carry on because I have a coat on right now. So it's easier than for me to do this than to pull the sleeve of my coat up and tap it. And especially as it gets colder and you have gloves on, that's what it's good for. Like that's kind of really the only thing that I've been able to do consistently. And I would say that the action is not very comfortable. Like for me to do, you have to like lift. I find that it works way more reliably if I lift my wrist and then do the action. So I haven't really found much more of a use for it outside of that. I like it for that, but it's not, in my opinion, that big of a deal. It's definitely not worth upgrading your Apple Watch for, I'll tell you that.
No, it doesn't seem like it is. Google launched the 100% leaked Pixel 8 and Pixel Watch 2. The Pixel 8 Pro is a little more expensive and has a temperature sensor, and I believe we have a bet to see if the Pixel 9 Pro will come with the temperature sensor. So we'll check back in on that next fall. I think the bigger update here was the Pixel Watch 2 has a new processor, better battery life. The design, like I got a friend with one, they look really nice, but they're really small. I mean, at least compared to the Ultra. But if that works for you and you're in the Android ecosystem, this is probably the smartwatch to get. Starts at $349 or $400 if you want LTE. And then the end of October, we got a Mac event. So the M3, M3 Pro, and M3 Max were all announced at the same time. This is a departure from how Apple has done this before with the M1 and the M2. The M3 showed up in the iMac and a new base model 14-inch MacBook Pro. The touch bar is dead. And the M3 Pro and Max are only available in the MacBook Pro. So there's still some M2 Pro and M2 Max systems running around there for sale now. I assume Apple will tidy all that up after the new year. But this event was overshadowed by the drama that it was shot on an iPhone. Oh, it's not shot on an iPhone if you use $1,000 worth of lights. It's like, yeah, it's fine. It was still shot on the iPhone. It looks incredible. And the behind the scenes stuff is really cool. I think that's awesome. I like this story a lot. And if it bothered you, just let us enjoy it. I think it's really pretty exciting that you can use a phone for something like this.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
macOS Sonoma, and I think this is an iOS and iPadOS too.
It is.
Got into some hot water because of the video reactions, where you can actually send fireworks, or balloons to your therapist if you're meeting online. I had this problem where I was on a Zoom call and I accidentally did a thumbs up and my video just froze and I had to turn my camera off and turn it back on.
That's even better.
Not great. It's a little awkward.
No, I've sent accidental balloons to my therapist twice now. So I put this in there because this is one of my favorite stories of the year. I just think it's hilarious. That this is happening and that therapy platforms are having to put warnings up when you teletherapy.
Yeah.
It's just a very strange thing that happens sometimes that I'm on a call with my therapist and then there's all stuff going on.
Yeah.
I did think it was cool the other day. I was on a call with me and Adina were talking to James Thompson and his wife Saskia, and we were playing around with the things, and the balloons came from behind the sofa, which was pretty cool.
Oh, that's fun.
It worked out the depth of us and the sofa and had the balloons come from behind the sofa. Yeah. It's very clever technology, but just because of what it's doing, it will activate accidentally sometimes because they're very simple hand gestures sometimes that you're doing. Like for me, one of the things is like counting. Like if you're counting 1, 2, 3 with your hands, like sometimes you'll send a peace thing, which I think, I don't remember what that does, like lasers or whatever. So
yeah, it's not super well thought out, I don't think.
I think it's just one of those things where like you don't know until it's out. You know, like I think it's you don't really think about it, and then it's out, and then it happens, and then it's like, oh no, look what I've done. You know.
Then October, we also had the unusual story that the problem with Jon Stewart had been canceled over editorial disagreements with Apple revolving around stories about AI in China. I still don't know if we know the bottom of this, like what actually happened or what is happening.
No,
but New York Times and the Hollywood Reporter seemed to be well sourced with this. So something happened. I will also say though, not a very good show. I think it kind of missed the mark, and that made me sad.
If the show was better, I'm not sure this would have happened. I think the show wasn't doing very well, and then this was coming up, and Apple was like, no thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I reckon happened. You can feel if that's good or bad or not, but like realistically, a corporation is not going to just allow things that go against what its principles are or like what its business case is. And like they don't want to be in trouble with China. That's good or bad depending on where you're coming from. I say realistically it's not great, but they pay for the content. So
I want to give October good plus.
Yeah.
I think the Jon Stewart thing is worrying. The pencil's kind of boring.
the Apple Pencil was annoying, like more than anything else, right?
Yeah, but I think the Mac event and the Pixel 8 event really solid. Not best I love you, but I feel like a good plus.
I don't know if it's good or good plus, personally.
I don't know if I'm feeling good plus.
Shot on
we could go
iPhone.
for good.
Not doing it for you. If you guys want to do good, I can live with that.
I tell you why, Stephen, the shot on iPhone thing would be good if it wasn't surrounded by so much annoying coverage, right? Like,
That's fair.
right? That could have tipped it because that would have been like super cool, and I love the little video. But like, it just became really annoying very fast. Like well, I can't think of the word, but like the
Discourse.
cultural moment of it, the discourse. Thank you, was frustrating.
Okay, let's go with good then. Let's go with good.
November, Logic and Final Cut both got updates, which is pretty cool, right? Same
For
year.
the iPad. No
Yeah,
less.
for the iPad. Yes, sorry. Thank you. Yes, the previously mentioned for the iPad versions got updates, which is great that they got good updates within the same year. Taylor Swift was awarded Apple Music's Artist of the Year. I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. Can you imagine if they would have tried to give it to anybody else? You know?
You just have to shake it off.
Exactly. This was the year of Taylor Swift. This is Taylor Swift's world this year, and we're all just living in it.
It's true.
Apple gave iPhone 14 owners an extra year of free emergency SOS services, as I'm sure they're still trying to work out what to do. Humane launched the AI pin, which was just... talk about discourse. This was good discourse. This was a fun couple of days as people were talking about that video. Apple loves content but doesn't always have the best way to show it, is my encapsulation of unveiling the top books, most popular podcasts, your rewind on Apple Music, the App Store award winners, and Podcast of the Year awards. I really liked all of the award stuff that they did. The year in review experience for books looked really interesting, and it did make me wonder, why could they just not put it inside of the music app? Why am I still going to a website I don't understand? Even like just open and like a native frame, right? That just like Safari view controller. Why do I have
in
to
that browser
go
that thing
to Safari? Like, why is this a thing that's still happening? And one of the most exciting news stories of the year, OpenAI, the board fired Sam Altman. Altman returned and fired the board within the space of a couple of weeks. It's truly,
it was a roller coaster of a story.
Yeah. Incredible news story. I would make this a good plus, I think. I think this is a good plus. It's like there's just like a lot of interesting things occurring. The news was good. The commentary was good. The think pieces were good. during November for like Humane and the OpenAI thing, that was like good stuff. So I would say good plus.
Yeah, I can go for good plus. It was an interesting month, at least.
Nothing really brought it down in this list, right?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
mean, unless you ate almonds that a robot pen told you to eat.
That's true. That is true.
Federico, take us home with December.
In December, AirPods Max turned 3 years old without an update.
Happy birthday!
Nightmare. We're into nightmare territory. We have to pull out. I'm so sad about this.
It's very sad because I genuinely love these headphones.
Yes.
But the lack of updates is killing me because I don't want to charge them with Lightning anymore. Like, I just don't want to, and I want a new foldable design. I want a new carrying case. I want signs of life. But this product maybe will come back in 2024. Maybe not. We'll see. Then we got to this still ongoing saga, which I think is getting kind of silly at this point. The company Beeper that was already making a service to sort of consolidate multiple messaging service into the same app, into the same UI, launched Beeper Mini, an Android application to use iMessage on Android. And they did so with a big splash in terms of YouTube creators explaining Beeper Mini, how it worked. And the gist of it is the engineers at Beeper Mini were able to reverse engineer the iMessage protocol, and they were able, at least initially, to register a phone number from Beeper Mini onto your iMessage account. And that was good until it lasted, because after a couple of days, Apple, as part of a series of security updates, closed the loophole that allowed Beeper Mini to register a phone number on iMessage. And this started this sort of game of whack-a-mole between Apple and Beeper Mini, in that Beeper Mini then rolled out the ability to use iMessage on Android, but just with an email address. And then Apple closed that as well. And then Beeper Mini yesterday came back and said, okay, Beeper Mini is working again, but now you also need to have access to a Mac. And this is gone. I posted on Threads that the next Beeper Mini workaround will be that you will need an iPhone to use Beeper Mini, which, you know, you can see the irony there. But we have officially reached the point where if you want to use Beeper Mini to have an iMessage on Android, you gotta have a Mac, which, you know, I find it funny because you're still giving money to Apple to use iMessage on Android.
And we've gotten to the, I think, honestly ridiculous point where a bunch of senators have written a letter to the Department of Justice saying that Beeper should be allowed to exist, which is like make your point that iMessage should be on Android,
yes,
not that Beeper should exist. It once again shows that these people don't know what they're asking for when they could actually make a good case.
Yeah.
But making the case that Beeper should be allowed as like breaking laws and like which I'm sure it is somehow, right, breaking some kind of end user license agreement thing to do this, it's bananas to me that you would that it's like an absolute whiff. You had the opportunity to make a good case and they bungled that case, in my opinion. So stupid.
So moving on from Beeper Mini, there are reports that Apple is going to end their relationship with Goldman Sachs for the Apple Card, and they are, who knows who they are approaching. They said somebody, Gurman said Chase would be a good fit.
But I'm not sure if that was based on anything,
a suggestion or based on any information. But yeah, Goldman Sachs probably.
I have some personal news.
Okay. Okay, are you taking it on?
We're now a bank.
Oh, congratulations.
Interesting. Well done.
Hackett Incorporated.
Putting those kids to work once again.
You're now settling balances, children.
That's right. Get to trading some stocks, kids.
Children, today I'm going to teach you how to use a ledger. We finally got details of what the two of the founders of Workflow, than shortcuts, are up to these days after leaving Apple. Conrad Kramer and Ari Weinstein, joined by another former, I believe their former boss at Apple. What's her name, guys?
I will work this out for you while you continue talking.
I want to say Kim Beverett, maybe. She was on stage at WWDC a few years back, and she was running the whole Siri Shortcuts initiative. They have created a company with an incredible name, Software Applications Incorporated, and they are basically working on AI as applied to the Mac desktop, it seems. They are working on the next big step in terms of large language models as applied to what you're doing on your computer. Very few details at this point. The only thing we know is that they have an incredible website, which is an emulator of macOS 8, and they are thinking about ways to leverage AI and large language models to extract information from what you're doing on your computer rather than typing into a text field. We don't know.
It was Kim Beverett, by the way. You were right.
Beverett, yeah. Yep. There you go. We literally don't know anything else. But if there's people out there that know how to take advantage of integrations with the operating systems, it's these folks. They know what they're doing, and I think it'll be exciting to see how they can put a different spin on AI that goes beyond having conversations with ChatGPT. Very, very fascinating. We're getting this right before the holiday break, but finally the first cars with the next generation CarPlay have been officially announced. If you recall, this was the next generation CarPlay, was it last year or was it this year?
It was 2022 WWDC.
That's right, last year. So anyway, if you have the money, say it for a Porsche or an Aston Martin, and you want to use next generation CarPlay, you gotta do it. You gotta do it for the Mike and Steven. If you're shopping for a new car, may I suggest the Aston Martin? That that's a really nice brand.
It's very British.
Very British. So yeah, they're gonna have if you recall the big giant multi-display thing with CarPlay and different modules and widgets and whatnot. Looks really nice, but also you gotta be a billionaire to afford it. And finally, we saved the best/worst thing for last. As we are recording this, the Apple Watch Series 9 and Apple Watch Ultra 2 have barely 24 hours to continue existing in the United States. Because as part of an ITC ruling in the US, a long-standing patent dispute between Apple and the medical company called Masimo around how the Apple Watch blood oxygen sensor technology works, like the algorithm for scanning your heart rate and determining the blood oxygen level. Well, the ITC has ruled that Apple must stop sales in the US of the Apple Watch Series 9 and the Ultra 2. What an incredible story, but what a nightmare for Apple just before Christmas.
Well, I don't know if this is going to affect their Christmas, right? Because that's wrapping up. But it is
But surely to have your watches taken out of stores because the ITC, the International Trade Commission, ruled that they are basically, I don't want to say, they are illegal to sell right now. They are illegal.
If you wouldn't mind, to give some clarification on this.
No, I don't mind when you
What the ITC ruling stops is imports, and it also stops Apple from selling it. So any stock that's in America can still be sold by a third party. So Best Buy can still sell them even after the ban comes into effect. Yeah. But once all the stock's gone, they can't restock, right? So like watches can still be bought after this point. Apple is hoping that President Biden will veto this. When I first heard about this news, it was kind of like, oh, wow, that's wild. And then I read Ben Thompson's Stratechery update, where he kind of details Massimo's case. And honestly, I say, after reading this, good. Basically, Apple approached this company. Their like merger and acquisitions head approached this company and was like, hey, let's work together. But we want to see what you're working on. And then, slowly, over the case of like a year, hired all of the key employees of the company.
It's not a good look.
And now did what Massimo's doing, apparently, like this sensor technology, And one of the people said, like, there was like an interview or an email that came out or something where they were like, where this person spoke to Apple and was like, oh, I believe I can advance your business in all the ways about and go around the patents. It's not going to affect it. And now we've gotten to the point where this has happened. Also, the fact that Apple have done this to Samsung, right? Like this ITC ban, Apple did this to Samsung. So it's kind of like a what goes around comes around. And from my perspective, it's like, this is the bed you've made for yourself, right? Like Apple have thought that it was okay to do this in the past to companies that they felt were infringing on their patents. And now this company's doing it. And they have this history of poaching employees from Massimo. I don't see any scenario in which they're not getting what they're deserved here. And I do not see any way that Biden vetoes this. That would be shooting himself in the foot, right? Like, he's basically like siding with big tech at that point, right? Like, I can't imagine it's going to happen. So I don't know what they're going to do. There's been reports that Apple's working on a software fix, but there are reports saying that, well, Massimo is saying hardware is the thing here. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I would say like it's a paid daily update, but I think it's well worth reading. Like Ben's reporting really enlightened me. I'll be honest, this is the only report that I've read in any detail, but he's quoting other sources. It's not his sourcing. And so if all of this is true, and this is Massimo's account, right? But I guess it's clear that their employees went to work for Apple, right? Like that is a thing that can be proven. And if this is all laid out as it is, then yeah, like this is what should happen. You can't just like do this and expect no ramifications. So that's where I'm coming from.
If that's the case, then I agree. So what do we think of December, which is still not over? So keep this in mind. Things may get better. Things may get even worse.
I go inferior.
Yeah, it's like there's stuff going on, but like none of it makes me feel good. Like the Beeper Mini thing has just gotten really annoying now. Mm-hmm. There is one thing I do want to note on this story, which I hadn't done yet because I got really excited. Huge props to friend of the show, Chance Miller, for getting this information.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Chance got the exclusive on this. And I'll just like tip my hat to 9to5Mac under Chance at the moment, where they have been getting more and more and more like breaking news from Apple. And like there was some discourse about this on Threads, but like I think one of the things that was
the discourse is that you can call 9to5Mac an enthusiast website. You know, I was really annoyed.
Yeah, there's a lot of connotations around this word to people that write, and I understand it.
I was really annoyed by that.
I consider myself an enthusiast, but I also don't consider myself a journalist, and I think that that's the thing.
That's the kind of adjective that you can consider yourself, because when you refer to others as enthusiasts, there's no way around it. You are looking down upon them. And I just don't think, as I replied to Nilay Patel, the editor-in-chief of The Verge, as I replied on Threads, I just think it lacks a little taste and style.
There is a long history with this word, which is too much to go into, but I understand the idea that if you consider yourself a journalist, which I'm not saying nobody here isn't, but like if you think of yourself as a journalist, being called an enthusiast isn't great. I consider myself an enthusiast, partly so I just say whatever I want. And you know what I mean? Ethics schmethics. You know what I'm saying?
It's incredible to go back and imagine, 9to5Mac a few years ago, getting this kind of scoop directly from an Apple spokesperson. It's wild. And yet here we are.
Also, they got the RCS scoop, which was, I think, in November, which we forgot to put in the thing. I don't know why. Honestly don't know how that missed.
Let me go over the list real quick, starting from January. January was a good month. February was a normal month. March was good again. Then we get to April, an inferior minus month. May was good, but June was best I love you. July was normal and August was good. September was best I love you again. October was good. November was good plus. However, December is an inferior month.
That sounded like a poem.
And with that, thank you. And with that, I am happy to say that we don't have a single nightmare month.
Hey, look at us.
Don't let us down, 2024.
Official historian Kate said in the Discord, They've equated this to a mathematical formula.
Of course.
And the averages have increased. So 2021 4.25, 2022 4.5, 2023 4.67. So things are getting better slightly.
The years are getting better for us as they get worse for planet Earth.
Yes.
Which is an interesting correlation.
Yeah.
But there you have it.
Maybe that says something about technology that we shouldn't get into today.
We're done.
Yeah.
We have 98 things in the show notes. So if you want to go read a bunch of stories, you can check those out on the web at relay.fm/connected/481 or in your podcast app. You can also join and get access to Connected Pro, which is a longer and ad-free version of the show. There's a link right there in the show notes for that. And also to our feedback form online where you can submit feedback or follow-up. You can choose to do so anonymously if you like. We will get back into follow-up next week, I'm sure. You can find us all online. I'm just going to read our Threads handles because we're all together on Threads. You can find Mike there as iMike, IMYKE. Federico is on Threads as Viticci, VITICCI. And you can follow me on Threads as ISMH86. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Masterclass and Electric. And until next time, guys, say goodbye.
Arrivederci.
We won't be here next week. Happy holidays. We'll be back, January? So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Cheerio.
Bye, y'all.